Hi, welcome to Young and Limitless podcast. Today, I'm going to be talking to an amazing woman who lives in New York. She has two sons, one daughter, one stepson, and a stepdaughter. And she's all into personal transformation, and she just loves helping people who are stuck, they're frustrated, and they just want their life to be better. They want the skills and techniques to help them to do that. Her name is Maria. Hi, Maria. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Esther. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
It's really lovely having you here. So, my opening question has been so far, what is your favorite food when you were a young person, a teenager?
Oh, wow. Pizza, potato chips. Isn't that everyone's?
What would you have on your pizza? I just had pizza literally just now.
Oh my gosh. I would put my potato chips on my pizza. I was a weirdo.
Oh, okay.
No, but I love pepperoni pizza.
Oh, I just had a Hawaiian, but it is lunchtime here. What time is it over there by you?
Oh, it's only quarter to 10 in the morning.
Yeah, too early for pizza.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe
no.
maybe cold pizza for breakfast.
Yeah, I can do that. I went to college. That's what we did.
Oh, so I think everybody loves food, really. So I know that you have an amazing life story of your own. However, today I just want to focus on one of your sons who I know suffered from anorexia and depression. And I know that the podcast is aimed at young girls, but sometimes I think things just transcend gender and age too. At what age did you realize that your son needed help?
He was a junior in high school. So that would be around, 16, 17?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And how, like, what behaviors or what feelings or what was he displaying? How did you
Well,
know?
that's the insidious thing about the disease because he's a very high achiever young man. So
Mm,
I didn't realize it at first, but I do remember he came home from a doctor appointment, a physical, and he said something about he's preoccupied with his weight. But he was a runner too, so I didn't really think about it as far as I had no indication really that at first that there was anything wrong.
so when did you realize that he needed help?
Well, it actually was, I physically saw it in that he's starting to lose so much weight. And then he started to not be as much himself. He started to be withdrawn, very much all about his studies. He seemed more stressed out about school,
Hmm.
very seemed very preoccupied. And that's when I knew something was wrong. And then I spoke to him and he said, "Mom, I can't focus. I can't focus. I don't want to eat. I don't want to, I don't want to live." And I knew that,
Oh,
yeah, it got to that point with him and I don't know how long he was suffering with it, to be quite honest with you, because when he went through this, it was literally a situation where at the point that I recognized it, I almost want to kick myself because I didn't realize it until the point where we ended up he had to be hospitalized.
okay. So is that what happened next then?
Yes, yes, he was hospitalized, and we took him to the emergency room. And at the time, the hospital that we had there in my town didn't specialize with children who had anorexia. So we went to the medical center about an hour and a half away, and then then I had no idea because anorexia, from what I knew, wasn't in my family tree. And but come to find out after, I think it's one of those silent diseases where people don't talk about it.
Mm.
And so he went to the hospital, and then that started the process of therapy and everything like that.
Mm. So when you said he went to the hospital, what did he go to the hospital for
What happened
specifically?
is that he wasn't eating, so it affects your heart. Anorexia
Okay.
does, and his heart rate was off. So they had a cardiologist. They realized it, and then they had to bring his heart rate back up because I guess what happens once you starve yourself, basically that's what anorexia is. And I'm sorry, it's emotional to talk about it because to go back to it, it was emotional for him and emotional for me. But your heart doesn't operate properly, and so they have to give you fluids. They have to help you introduce eating and educate you. And then he was in the hospital for about 5 days, and then they had us follow up with a nutritionist once he got back home, and then also start going to therapy.
And how long did that take?
Well, the therapy, it was rough because the therapist that he had, he didn't really connect with that therapist at first. And he talked about, she's eating in front of me, and he didn't feel comfortable, but he felt comfortable enough to talk to me about it. So we switched therapists. We went to
Okay.
another therapist,
Hmm.
and it worked out. And I know sometimes it's difficult to go through certain things, and talk to your parents, but I definitely feel that if when it comes to therapy, if a child is feeling not comfortable, or I think that's something that needs to be said and needs to be addressed, and then maybe move on. There's so many therapists, move on to another one.
Because you've got a number of other children and stepchildren. How did that affect them?
Joshua is the son that, and he was living with me at the time. The other two children were living with their father at
Okay.
the time, and they didn't really see it as much, and
Okay.
they thought, okay, well, he's going to be okay. He'll be all right. It's just Josh. But I was living with him at the time, so it was a situation where I had to be his advocate in the process, because they're like, oh, well, he's getting good grades. Oh, he's still running track. He was still doing all the things from the outside
Mm.
that people thought, but he was really suffering on the inside. So for them, I think there was a little bit of disbelief and denial, until he went into the hospital the second time.
Yeah, it's hard for parents, it's hard for teachers, it's hard for most people, including siblings, to really know what's going on. So if you could go back in time, what would you have said to your son? What would you have said to yourself?
I wish I would have caught it earlier. I really do. There's that part, I wish I could have
How
gone back and just, but it's,
what would you have looked for, sorry, if you could have
oh,
caught it
what I would
earlier?
have, I would have listened more when he said he was starting to feel, think about food, or worried about his weight. It wasn't as if he was heavy at the time. And then my
Mhm.
daughter, she went through where it was the opposite when she was younger, where they said that, okay, well, she's a little bit heavy, but she'll lose the weight. And then she just kind of ate healthy, and it was a natural thing. And he's my youngest, and she's my second child. So
Okay.
I just thought, like, okay, well, no big deal. Everybody deals with weight. It just didn't even, it wasn't even on my radar, honestly,
Mm.
that could. And then and then I've even had people say to me, okay, well, your son has, anorexia. And that, I think maybe there was that too. Like, okay, well, I didn't think about it. So I wish I would have just kind of asked more questions when he had the conversation, or when he said something, instead of just, oh, okay, and then just poo-pooing it and just going on about my business. I wish I would have maybe asked more questions and had him
Mm.
open up a little bit more about it, and then we could have kind of got to the root of it. Because once he was diagnosed, he was very free. It was almost like a relief in a way for him,
Mm.
where, okay, I know this is what's wrong with me. All right, what do I do from here?
What advice would you have for any parent whose child is saying similar things to your son, like they're worried about their weight and they talk about food and stressed and
Right.
yeah.
I definitely think it's something that you can't handle alone. You're
Mm-hmm.
just that It's definitely something that a professional would have to handle. So I would say talk to the pediatrician or whoever your family doctor is,
Mm-hmm.
and definitely get help as far as therapy is concerned, because it's definitely not something that it's physical. It manifests physically, but it has to do with the mind. So definitely I would say reach out for help and get a support system too, as far as that's concerned, because sometimes parents, I know I felt as a parent that this is my child, I should be able to handle things, but I talked to friends and family about it. I didn't hide the disease, and I think that's why he's been able to be so successful coming out of it, because he was also
Mm.
too, once I didn't, I think because my attitude wasn't to hide it, and so he didn't feel shame either. He was
Mm.
able to be okay with, okay, you know what, I have anorexia, I have depression. He was able to talk to his track coach. He wasn't able to run for a little while,
Mm-hmm.
because of the health issues. He was able to talk to I helped him navigate school, because
Mm-hmm.
there were days that he wasn't able to go to school, where he
Okay.
felt very depressed. And I helped him navigate that system. So I kind of like, you got to be that advocate for your child. You have to be that voice for them while they're going through this experience, and then not have that shame or feel badly or feel like, oh, okay, what did I do wrong? Because it doesn't have, for me, the best advice that I could do is that it doesn't have to, it is my child, but this is their issue, and let me help them. Let me be those arms around them. Let me envelop them. Let me love them. Let me give them that hope that it's okay that you're feeling this way. It's okay that you're feeling suicidal. It's okay that, you know what, and you're going to make it. And just be that strength for them, even though when they're not feeling okay, for me to say, you know what, you're going to be okay. And we're going to get the help you need. And I'm going to be supportive. And there would be times that my son would be like, Mom, you're annoying. Okay.
It's so hard to get it right as a parent, because you want to ask the questions, but you might be wrong. But sometimes it's better to just ask questions. And if you're wrong, the child can just accept, you know what, mum's doing it, or mum and dad, whoever's doing it, because they care.
Yes.
Just give them some slack, and also give yourself some slack. So you
Right.
said something very interesting about shame, because that's so hard we just internalize that deep down. So how did you help your son through that?
I just let him take the lead as far as how he wanted to handle his disease. So if he felt like he wanted to talk to, his classmates, or he puts a lot of things on Facebook, and his brother, I know either his brother or his sister, I think it was his sister. His sister's like, Mom, why is he telling all this stuff on Facebook? I was like, well, this is his process.
Yeah.
This is his way. This is the way he wants to handle it. And so just kind of standing back and letting him be a part in his healing. Let him
So
be a person.
brave.
Yes. Oh my goodness. He is an amazing young man. And I think we all have that capacity once we reach out for help to participate in that healing process. And I think that's when it sticks. I know for me, as I've gone through struggles in my life, when I participate in my healing and I become a part of that, it transforms me, and I'm able to deal with it in a way that incorporates it into my life. Because anorexia and depression are something I just did a podcast with my son, and he says that it's something that still comes back. It haunts him. If he gets stressed out, he'll go to that way of eating, or he'll have these dark moments. He just started, when he was in college, or, so it's not something that, and he said that for the longest time, he was hoping that it would just go away. Okay, I know that I have anorexia. Okay, can I just go back to the way I was? And then also he surrounds himself around people that, and he participates, with the eating. He doesn't, go by himself like he would go through, because I guess with anorexia, it kind of turns into binging too. And I saw that part also, where he would go and like, okay, have ice cream or have a whole bunch of stuff, and then feel guilty, and then he would starve himself. So there's, there's layers and layers and layers and layers. And as he was going through the healing process, depression that went with it, he took medication for a while. But then he decided that he wanted to not take the medication anymore. And so I supported him in that. But then there was another layer of having to deal with things and emotions and everything else. But I think that as far as the healing process, as it relates to the mind, as long as the communication is always there, okay, not as far as the talking to other people, and that communication is always going on with other people, I think you'll heal. I think anyone can heal from anything, honestly.
Yeah. And not knowing you're all alone, so keeping that communication going.
Yes,
Yeah.
not isolating with it. Yes.
So when he was younger and you and him were having conversations, were there particular phrases like affirmations or things that you said constantly to him to try and drip, get him to believe the truth that you were telling him?
You know what? I just kept on. I was just always positive, and that's when I said that, he said, "Mom, you're annoying."
Oh, okay.
That's what he would say. That's what he'd say to me. I was like, "You got this, Josh. It'll be okay." He's like, "You're so happy. You're annoying." And I'm like, "No, but you got this. I know you're gonna make it." And then we also did, and I didn't realize it, that it stuck with him. So the meditation, he continues to do the meditation, and I didn't realize that from 17, when I taught him the meditation, to now he's about to be 24, he still remembers that meditation that helped calms his mind. When he's going all over the place, it slows his mind down. He doesn't, and it's just, I didn't even realize, but that's one thing that, that I did with him and that stuck with him.
Please tell us what kind of meditation that was, what it was
Oh, it's
involving.
called, I think it was developed by someone in, I believe, at the University of Southern California. It's called the Keeley method,
How do you
K
spell that? Sorry.
Kelee. And you can look that up. Yeah, the Keeley method. And he says it's just stuck with him and he's just worked on, and it's helped him in tough times because he's gone from high school to college and from college to very stressful job. And it's just helped him along the way. But he still participates. He balances his life out with not just, having a girlfriend or just
Mhm.
working, but he just completed his first marathon. So that
Woohoo!
was amazing. Yes, and he just continues living his life, even knowing that, that he has this illness, or he does have the depression. But he just kind of he realizes it's only for a certain amount of time, and then it'll pass. And so he doesn't get freaked out or stressed out about it. He just knows, okay, you know what, I'm just feeling like this but he keeps going through it. He doesn't just shut
Yeah.
himself down.
I think
Yes.
that's really important to know that this is not, it feels like it's never going to end, but you have to tell yourself that it's just a tiny time and then you can breathe because you're going to get over it. It's going to get better. It's going to be, life will be amazing again.
Yes, and that's so true because when you're a teenager, you just think like, oh, everything is just so dramatic and just
Oh,
so
yeah.
like this is the end of the world or oh my goodness. But believe it or not, life goes on and
Yeah.
it does get better. And sometimes it gets worse, but then it'll get better, and that's just the ebb and flow of life.
Yeah. And they've got decades of that to come.
Oh yes, absolutely. You won't be a teenager forever.
So as a mum, how did you deal with your own feelings of helping a child and helping your daughter as well, who had a different issue?
It's funny. I was trying to think about that as I was thinking about doing this podcast with you. And I think it's just my personality. I just plowed through it. I think my style of a mom, okay, this is what I have to do. This is what I'm doing for my child. And I just don't, okay, I'm very solution oriented. So I don't get stuck in, oh, my kid has this or they're going through this. All right, this is what we got to do. Let's move forward. Let's do the best we can. I get as much research. I try to find as much resources, and that's just so there was that feeling of being scared, of
Hmm.
being afraid. He wrote in a journal, and he was like, I don't even want, I can't, I want to go to sleep and not wake up. And those feelings of just where you almost grieve, you have sorrow.
Mm.
But it wasn't until we talked about it that I remembered those feelings, but I just moved through them because I felt like I had to be there for my child and I had to help him through it. I just kind of put those feelings, I would deal with those feelings within myself. I'm a very spiritual person. So,
Hmm.
I have a higher power, who I call God. And so
Hmm.
I would just pray, and I just knew that it would be okay. There was just something in me that I just trust, that I trust the process. I trust that it's going to be all right. I know that there are people that have survived it and
Yes.
are survived. Like, we all are in this world together and we are here to help each other. There's a reason that
Yes.
we're all here together. And so I just leaned on other people,
Mm.
and I just leaned on, my spirituality, and that's how I got through it. But I did feel those feelings, definitely.
Because we all go through different things at different times. You're right. We all need each other. And the thing about a young person feeling shame, a parent feels shame as well. And it's really good that you had people around who you felt safe with. You could share, you could lean on them, and know that they just accepted you as you are and your family, and they understood. What
Yes, it was
what would
powerful.
you have done if you didn't have that?
I can't imagine.
Wow.
Honestly, I can't imagine not having. I would have sought it out,
Hmm. Hmm.
if it wasn't from my family, or if I felt like I wasn't getting the help I needed from a doctor. When I had my first son, I was young. I was 21 and I was still in college. And I remember I had a C-section, and I remember crying because I'm so young. I was still in college at
Mm.
the time, and crying. And the nurse said to me, she said, "You know what?" She's like, "No matter what, you always have to be an advocate for your child. You
Oh, a
always,"
lovely
and
nurse.
that's what, right? Nurses are great.
Mm.
And she was amazing. And that stuck with me. And I said, okay, you got to always be an advocate. So I've learned to be an advocate for my children. I've also learned to be an advocate for myself and speak honestly about things that I'm going through. I wasn't
Mm.
always like that. It's a process, but I feel that I would have always, no matter if I didn't have the support of my family, or even actually my father even said to me when my son was going to college, he's like, how's he going to go to college? You know, he has anorexia. He's not going to make it. And I was just like, Dad, he'll be fine.
Oh.
So, sometimes you have to ignore the critics.
Mm.
And not everyone in your family or not everyone around you is going to be supportive. I mean, but you kind of reminded me of that. And you just kind of like, okay, that's their thought. That's how they feel.
It's really interesting because your son was able to stand in his own truth by telling people on Facebook. So he's obviously learned a lot. How did he say that his friends reacted, or how did
You
they
know
react?
what? I think they were, he's always been a leader because so he was like the head of his National Honor Society track team. He was involved in a lot of things. And I, it was amazing because they just rallied around him, you
It's
know?
nice for young men to have that and know that that does happen. If you step
Yes.
out, that you will be. There's so many people out there who want to support you and love you and be there and care for you, and that's amazing. That's so lovely.
It is amazing because I wasn't that kid in high school, believe it or not. I was the one that was just like, okay, I'm just gonna plow in, do my
Yeah,
work
me too. Yeah.
and just suffer in silence. And now I'll see it, but I never wanted that for my children. I want my children to be, I was very
Mm,
intentional in the way that I raised my children, and I really wanted them to always have that voice because I never
mm.
felt like I was never confident in my voice. I never felt like I had anything worth saying, or I was afraid to say it.
Yeah, I think also I don't know how old you are, but my parents are in their 70s now. So that generation, they didn't really, they weren't that good with talking. My mum's great now. Now she's a grandma. She's amazing. but,
Yes.
um, but I mean, it's nice to see that every generation get a little bit more comfortable with talking, a little bit better at supporting and being open and transparent. I mean, that's just amazing because this world is so stressful. We need more of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think also too, and my parents are the same age, so they're in
Oh,
their
okay.
70s as well. So yeah, so that generation is totally, you didn't talk about it.
No. And if you did, they wouldn't know what to do with it. So get on with
Right.
life.
Oh, right. Exactly. I've had my outbursts where I'm just like, I wish I was never born. And they're just standing there staring at me. I'm like, I think that's a cry for help. Hello.
No, just get on with it.
All right, do your chores.
Yeah. So when your son said that he was stressed was it about school? Was there anything particular?
Well, I think that was the tough part about the diagnosis or coming to find out that he had anorexia because he seemed to be handling everything, but he was stressed about everything. He was stressed about,
Okay.
he had gotten a scholarship for the engineering school his junior year. He was head of, the club that, the National Honor Society. He was, he was doing all these things, and he's also in his church youth group, and so, but everything was stressing him out. Apparently, it wasn't, when I tried to talk to him about one thing or the other, it wasn't. It all became. It was like it was life that was stressing him out.
Mm,
It may have started maybe at one thing, but I don't know where. I don't
yeah.
know where exactly. By the time it was full blown anorexia,
It
it
knocked
was
into everything.
everything. Everything was hard.
Oh. So it's almost
Like
feeling that,
overwhelmed.
yeah, overwhelmed and not being able to cope.
Yeah. Yeah, like having no control. And so it took the control of eating. Okay, I'll
Mm,
control what I eat and I'm just not going to eat, and then not being good enough and not feeling worthy
mm.
of so many things. Just trying to measure up to other people or another standard. Oh, I didn't get the best grade, or maybe if I lose some weight, he says that he believes it was started with track and that he was trying to lose weight to like maybe get faster.
Oh, I
Yeah.
mean, and to be fair, some people could be a life journey to feel that you're good enough and you're worthy, and that you can cope with everything. It does break my heart to know that young people are struggling with that, and I'm really glad he had you and he had support and amazing doctors, and therapists and stuff.
Yeah, it all comes full circle. It really does, because if you can learn to cope within adolescence or teenage years, it'll
Mm,
give you the strength as you go through adulthood, because it's and you learn those tools, but communication is the key. Talk to someone about how you feel, and because you're not alone, because whatever, I know that in my experience, whatever I've gone through, someone else has actually in this planet has gone through it.
yes.
And where I'm thinking I'm all by myself, or it's just I'm all caught up in my head thinking like, oh, okay, it's just me and woe is me. But there's someone out there, and there's people that
Mm.
want to help. I don't know what it is about myself that I tend to isolate, but I've learned not to do that anymore.
Hmm. And what's nice about today as well is that I know social media gets bad rep, but it actually can open up so that no matter where you are in the world, you can connect with other people and find actually there's loads of people who feel the same, have suffered the same, and really get where you're coming from.
It's so
So
true. That is the beauty of social media.
yeah.
That is the
And
beautiful
they
part
won't
of it.
judge you. They will just go, oh, I get that. I understand. Yeah. And it needs to be more of the sharing the skills rather than just going down in the spiral loop. But
Oh, right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's true. And then it's tough too also with social media is that I know I'll judge myself. I'll say, "Oh my goodness, maybe I don't have that, or I'm not as far along." And it can be used for good or it could be used for bad, social media. It just depends.
Maria, thank you very, very much for your time and sharing from the heart about what it's like to be a mum, helping your child through anxiety and depression. Just really thank you again and just honour you for being an amazing role model because as you have shared and as you have been brave and your son has been brave and dealt with this issue like on Facebook and openly and with the community, you've empowered other people to ask for help too and know that there's no shame, there's no judgment, there's no
Yes,
like with your dad, just like you could block out certain other people because most
exactly.
people are going to get you, understand you, want to support you and want to help. So thank you very much, Maria.
Oh, thank you, Esther.
Listeners, oh, you're welcome. So listeners, thank you for listening. If you want to find me on Instagram, it's all one word, Young Limitless Podcast. Thanks, guys. Have a good week. Bye-bye.